What is up, YouTubers? It's HarpyHunter89, and the voices in my head coming at you from the Duelist Den. And for today, I'm going to be profiling a deck that I think could be a very, very powerful sleeper deck. And the reason I say that is because when Zeus and True Dracos were at full power, I had some pretty amazing matchups against them with this deck. This deck also is not really affected by Master Rule 4, which is the rule that we have to follow with the Link monsters. It can utilize the extra deck, but it does not need it. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the profile. First up, we are running one Max C. Now Max C is an obvious tech choice in pretty much every deck these days. Next up, we've got two Deskbot 1s. Deskbot 1 can special summon itself from the graveyard when you summon two or more machine type monsters to the field at the same time. It can become a very, very powerful beat stick all by itself, getting 500 attack for all machine type monsters you control. And it is a level 1 tuner, so if you need to go into your synchro plays, it can be used to synchro summon pretty much any monster you have in your extra deck. Next up, I run three Deskbot 2s. Now, Deskbot 2, when it is special summoned, allows you to add a Deskbot card from your deck to your hand. It also increases the attack of all other Deskbots you control by 500 points. Deskbot 3, when it is normal summoned, you can special summon a Deskbot from your deck. Now, ideally, when you normal summon this, you will, of course, special summon your Deskbot 2 and get 2 search effect off to get another Deskbot card to your hand. But Deskbot 3 can also target a Deskbot you control and increase its attack by 500 for every Deskbot card that you control. So it allows you to make one of your Deskbots a very, very large beat stick. And you can use the effect on your opponent's turn, so your opponent really has to be careful about what they attack into with that on the field. Next up, I've got three Deskbot 4s in the deck. Deskbot 4 is essentially your nuclear deterrent to things such as True Dracos, because when it is involved in battle, you can send a Deskbot card from your or Deskbot monster from your deck to the graveyard, and this gains 500 attack times that monster's level. All right, so it can easily get over things like Masterpiece or pretty much any boss monster your opponent has on the field. The downside is that your opponent takes no battle damage during the turn you use this effect. But if this card destroys your opponent's monster by battle, then you can special summon two Deskbots either from your hand and or graveyard as long as they have different levels. So it does give you a little bit of an extra even if your opponent's not taking damage off of it. For the Pendulums, I run three Deskbot 5. Deskbot 5, like all of the Deskbot Pendulum monsters, has the Pendulum effect that you can only Pendulum summon Deskbot monsters, and this effect cannot be negated. Now, when 5 is summoned to the field, whether it be normal or special summoned, you can destroy a spell or trap card on the field. And if this card in the Pendulum zone is destroyed, you can special summon a Deskbot from your graveyard. In addition to that, it gains 500 attack for every face-up Deskbot card in your extra deck. So it can get very, very powerful. Next up, we have Deskbot 6. Just like Deskbot 5, Deskbot 6 gains a 500 attack boost for every face-up Deskbot in your extra deck. When Deskbot 5 is summoned, you can change the battle position of one monster on the field. And if this card in the Pendulum zone is destroyed, you can add a Deskbot card from your graveyard to your hand. So 5 and 6 both have graveyard recursion effects and effects that activate when they're destroyed in the Pendulum zones. So they are a must-have for the deck. Next up, I run three Deskbot 7s. Deskbot 7 gains 500 attack for every Deskbot card in your graveyard. If you have two or more of these cards on the field, your opponent cannot target any of your Deskbot monsters for attacks, because if Deskbot 7 is on the field, it is the only monster your opponent can select for attack. So like I said, if you have two of them, you have locked your opponent out from attacking you completely. And if this card attacks a defense position monster, it does deal piercing battle damage. For the last of the Pendulums, I run three Deskbot 8. Just like Deskbot 7, it gains 500 attack for every Deskbot card in your graveyard. Just like Deskbot 7, it has a protection effect, and that is, if this is on the field, your opponent cannot target Deskbot cards. That's any Deskbot card, whether it be Deskbot base, cards in your Pendulum zones, whatever, with card effects. and this card can attack 2 monsters every turn. And now for the main boss monster of the deck, we of course have 3 Deskbot 9s. Now Deskbot 9 can use its effect to gain the attack of, or the combined attack of all other Deskbots on the field other than itself. And when this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. Furthermore, if this card would be destroyed, you can destroy another Deskbot card you control instead. So this card, it has built-in protection. It can get really big, really fast. And if you attack with it, your opponent is pretty much going to lose the game off the first attack. For spells, we have 2 Machine Duplication. I was running this at 3 for a while, but 3 was just a little bit too cloggy because usually by the time I got to the second or third one, I wasn't really able to use it because the Deskbots can boost their attacks up. But with all the Deskbots having a base attack and defense of 500, Machine Duplication can target every one of them, except of course for Deskbot 1, who automatically gets a 500 boost when it hits the field. So Deskbot 1 is really the only card in this deck that that Machine Duplication cannot special summon more copies of. To make up for the third Machine Duplication, I have a Reasoning in the deck. Now, every Deskbot monster has a different level, so Reasoning is very good in this deck, and more times than not, I'm going to say over 90% of the time, you will get to special summon off of this card. I, of course, run 1 Upstart Goblin because, we like drawing in this deck. And your opponent getting 1,000 life points isn't really that big of an issue when you can get a nice little 30,000 attack point Deskbot 9 on the field. Then, of course, if a 30,000 attack point Deskbot 9 was not bad enough, we, of course, have Limiter Removal to boost all of your machines up even higher. We run 2 Shared Ride. Now, if you don't know what Shared Ride does, during the turn that this card was activated, every time your opponent adds a card from their deck to their hand except by drawing them, you get to draw a card. So this is in here just because, I can't run 3 Max Cs, and I've actually resolved both one of these and a Max C in the same turn more times than you would think would happen, and pretty much I had game at those points. For the latest addition to the deck, we of course have the 3 Wavering Eyes. Now, any deck that utilizes the Pendulum mechanic can definitely utilize this card here. I am really happy that this card is unbanned now. It just adds a whole new level of playability to Deskbots. And finally, I have 3 Deskbot Base. Deskbot Base is a lot similar to Cosmo Town, I'm going to say, because it allows you to shuffle Deskbots from your hand into the deck and then draw that many cards. It also gives all of your Deskbot monsters a 500 boost. And it does have an effect that you very rarely get to pull off, but when you do, you just feel a great surge of joy. You can banish 9 Deskbots with different names from your field or graveyard, and then return all cards in your opponent's hand, on their field, and in their graveyard to the deck, and then they shuffle their deck, and then they pretty much have no resources to work with at that point. So, it's very rare that you get that ability off, but when you do, it's just so satisfying. I've gotten it off several times. There have been games where I intentionally just drew it out so I could do that, but it is a very powerful field spell. For the extra deck, we have Naturia Beast, which can stop spell cards by sending 2 cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard. Next up, we have Bionic, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. This just went from limited to semi-limited, which is pretty cool. I still think I'm just going to keep it at 1 for this deck, to be honest with you, though. Following that, we have Naturia Barkion, which allows you to banish cards from your graveyard to negate traps. Following that, we have Naturia Landois, which allows you to essentially discard a spell card to negate monster effects. We have Black Rose Dragon, because, who doesn't like blowing up all your opponent's cards? Got Stardust Spark Dragon. This allows you to protect your own cards from being destroyed. Psy-Frame Lord Omega. Don't really need to explain why that's in the deck. Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend, just to get some major destruction off. Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. Do I really need to explain why this is in the deck? Next up, we run 2 Deskbot Jets. Now, Deskbot Jet is a very fun card. It gains 500 attack for every Deskbot card you control. And it actually has 2 additional effects. The first is that you can target 1 Deskbot card you control and destroy it. And if you do special summon a Deskbot from your deck. And the other is you can destroy a Deskbot card you control to destroy a card your opponent controls. Furthermore, you can only use 1 of those effects per turn and only once that turn. So that is a bit of a downside, but it is still a very, very powerful card. Next up, we have Star Eater. Just because essentially its summoning can't be negated and it is a nice little 3200 beat stick that can get around a bunch of shit. And then we, of course, run our 3 copies of Mrs. Radiant, just in case, you know, we want to go into some of our Pendulum plays. Honestly, when you do Pendulum Summon, you don't Pendulum Summon more than 2 monsters from your extra deck anyway, unless you're really in a desperate spot. But I feel the 3 Mrs. Radiants are really the only Link monster you need in the deck in order for it to work during the long game. But anyway, let me know what you guys thought about this deck down in the comment section below. Do you guys think this is a good sleeper deck for this format? Do you think it's not? But anyway, guys, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, this is Harpy189 and the voices in my head. Just wanted to say Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not just a game. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is life.